What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we have a fun thing to go over. It's Bradley Cooper's hair transplant. Now, a lot of you are probably going to be like, he didn't get a hair transplant. But apparently, not only has he had a hair transplant, but he's also taking medications in order to help him maintain the hair he has. So we're going to go over the medications he's on, show some proof of that. We're also going to go over why we know he had a hair transplant, show some photos of before the hair transplant and how it looked directly afterward. So let's start with that right away. But guys, if you like these videos and you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned for more. I just did a video on Floyd Mayweather and his hair transplant, his beard hair transplant. It's dope. Go check it out. And if you are actually looking for ways to maintain your hair so you don't lose more and you haven't found a good way to do it, I did a video on minoxidil about 2 weeks ago. You can go back and check that out. And it shows how great the results are that I've had with minoxidil. There's also how to derma roll, which I just did a video on yesterday or 3 days ago, whatever. And that will show you how to do a non-chemical, non-prescription, non-surgical way to help your hair grow thicker, faster, and fuller. But yeah, so anyway, Bradley Cooper on screen right now. You can see this is 2008 in the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey. Great movie. And as you can see, he has some intense thinning up top and he has some peaking here. And it's very obvious that it's like being pushed into the sides, like it's going up, how everyone really starts to lose their hair. He's looking like a Norwood 3 at this point in the photos. And yeah, and then right after this, you can see the next photo is him actually in The Hangover. And in The Hangover, he had a full head of hair. It was spiked to the ceiling. It looked great. It was long. It was amazing. And that was only 1 year later in 2009. Now, the photo right before that was actually a photo of him at the Yes Man release of the movie, which means that sometime between filming the movie and it being released publicly, he had the hair transplant. So there's always time in between those. And yeah, so 2008 would be around the time he had that hair transplant. So that was pretty cool. Now, I do have proof to show you. Let's look at his father real quick. And this will give you an idea of what he would look like if he had not gotten a hair transplant. As you can see, he would have continued to have some hair loss and some thinning. And he would have probably ended up being a Norwood 3, maybe Norwood 4. But it would have continued to thin out, especially with age. As we all know, there's really nothing you can do to stop that if you're not taking products. So, in theory, he's probably started with minoxidil because it's cheap and it does a great job of helping hair grow. Again, if you haven't done minoxidil, it's a very cheap, easy way with low risk, low chance of side effects, and it's extraordinarily effective. That being said, I'm not actually a fan of the way it feels or any of that stuff, but it is very, very effective, guys, and I think it's something that everyone should try because if you can tolerate it or you just use it once a day at nighttime, then it is an extremely effective topical treatment that everyone should be doing to keep their hair. And there's another company that actually I talked about in the last video, and I will be doing a video about it next week. The company is DS Laboratories, and I'll throw a link in the description. You can click it, check out their products. Also, my link does give me a commission bonus, so if you guys buy anything, it helps the channel out. But really cool about them is that they have a product that's better than minoxidil, and I'm not just saying that, guys. It's actually something I bought on my own before I even contacted them, and it is a really, really, really legit product. Basically, the way minoxidil was actually made for another reason, and then they found out that minoxidil not only did the job it was supposed to, but a side effect was that it helped thicken and grow hair. So they ended up just selling it as Rogaine for hair regrowth. But the reality is it wasn't made for that. It was kind of just a side effect and it was sold for it instead. That happens a lot with drugs. Now, nanoxidil was specifically formulated based on minoxidil's actual base compounds, but it was altered to be a higher molecular weight, so it sinks deeper in the skin, and it's got a bigger molecular size, so it doesn't go through the blood barrier. Now, I'm going to do a full video on this in a week, so check that out. But again, that code actually will help you get to the page, and it will save you 20% of your first anything you buy, if you do decide to buy anything. But it's definitely worth looking into because it smells way better, feels way better, and it actually blocks DHT too. So go check that out or wait for my video next week, and I'll give a real in-depth of how to use it alongside or instead of minoxidil. Now, that being said, guys, here's a photo that's really interesting. This guy was on BBC, and long story short, everyone thought it was actually Bradley Cooper, but it wasn't. He looks just like him. But I wanted to show the photo because I thought it was funny, and at first I thought it was Bradley Cooper too, but obviously it's not. And it does kind of give a really good, realistic way of looking at what he would look like if he lost more hair and decided just to shave his head instead of get a hair transplant. But he got the hair transplant, so he's got that full, voluptuous hair, and I love it. And it is kind of sad, though, that hair transplants are so frowned upon and looked down upon that people don't share that they had one. Um, it sucks. Like, we should be more supportive of this, guys. Like, these guys all had hair when they were younger, and then it wasn't their fault, but their hair fell out. So if you want to get a hair transplant, you should be allowed to get a hair transplant, and people shouldn't be like, oh, well, you did something crazy. Like, it's not. You just did what you had before. You're not looking for anything different. But yeah, anyways. I don't want to make this video too long, but I do want to talk about FUT and FUE and then show you a couple articles really quickly that were on different websites that talked about the fact that he uses finasteride to prevent hair loss. But let's go ahead and talk about FUT versus FUE and which one we think he had. There's no way to know 100% for sure, guys. I've watched some other videos on this, and I have to agree with other YouTubers that it could go either way. He could do FUT because it would allow him to take grafts really quickly and easily through a small slit. That being said, the scar would be super easy to hide for him since he wears his hair longer. If he did FUE, 2,000 grafts would probably be the most he needed to take to cover those regions in really densely. Maybe even less, like maybe as low as 1,200, but I would probably assume he did like 1,800 to 2,000 just to do extra dense pack in those areas here. And maybe he put a little in the front, who knows? But that being said, guys, if he did FUE, he could have spread it out quite a bit so it wouldn't be very noticeable, especially with longer hair. Again, like I had 2,650 grafts, and you cannot tell looking at the back of my head. And my hair is shorter than his, and even when it was like faded out with a fade haircut, you see my video I did about my first haircut being a fade out. I went down to a number 1 and below, actually. It was like obviously a 0 to a 1.5 fade out and then clippers. But basically, you couldn't even see at those levels that I'd had hair removed. So that being said, if he went to a good surgeon, which I would assume he did, it would be very, very hard to notice if he did FUE. So I'd have to assume he would choose that route. Being on stage so much, he probably wouldn't want to risk a big scar. And honestly, it's just easier to get that surgery for the most part. So I'd be shocked if he did the FUT. Although it is the gold standard, FUE is a simpler procedure, especially for someone like him who has very little hair loss. And he's not really expected to have a great amount of hair loss, and his donor area is clearly very thick. If he's on finasteride, which we know he is because of all the rumors and the different posts about it, and like inside sources that are close to him that talked about it, then he's already preserving his hair. He's probably using other stuff to boost how thick it is, like minoxidil and finasteride combined. But yeah, if he's doing all that, then he doesn't have to worry about his donor area. He's got tons of hair to go ahead and move if he needs to in the future. And yeah, guys, I hope this clears everything up. I will show a couple photos right now on screen. You can check them out if you'd like. You can pause the video and read them. But honestly, guys, they're kind of BS articles. To be blunt, they were just talking about the fact that he, takes finasteride. So anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you like this video, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.